Yeah.
I want to say that
right.
the visit with our Minister of Finance, Monsieur François-Philippe Champagne, was a very good meeting. And the key message that we're trying to leave today, where he's going back to Ottawa, is that the city is very focused on doing a major renovation to the Eastlink Multi-Use Sports Entertainment Centre. We want to get the feds, the federal government, in collaboration, working with the province and the city. And I can tell you, with our chair of the Standing Committee for Economic Development, Tourism and Festival Events, city is totally behind our investment in it, and we're hoping to get the province to be part of this announcement also. Monsieur Minister.
Well, thank you very much. It's great to be in Charlottetown, to be in PEI. Charlottetown will be the center of attention, as you know, Mayor, for the next 2 weeks. We have the federal, provincial, and territorial ministers, finance ministers meeting for the next day, and the premiers and the prime minister next week. So I would say PEI is at the center of attention. The country will be looking. And it's great that I start with you. As I landed, the first meeting is with you, Mayor, and your team. So I want to say thank you. Thank you to my colleague, Sean Casey, who really led the effort to look at the priorities. As you know, the federal government has been working hand in hand with cities across the country. I have a personal relationship with the mayor. He's been doing extremely well. He presented me what really is the hope, but I would say also the plan of the city with respect to Eastlink Centre. I want to compliment the team. The people have been working extremely hard. A very compelling case where they presented, the vision, both from a sport perspective, but also from a community perspective, emergency management. We had Mario Cecchini from the league with us, which I happen to know as well, which really was very supportive of the leadership, I would say, that we have seen here. I understand that the province also, I've been reaching out to the Premier to touch base. Obviously, Jill Burrig is going to be with us, the Minister of Finance of Prince Edward Island, so I will convey to her the message that I heard loud and clear from the city of Charlottetown, the power of infrastructure in communities. That's why we created a fund. You may recall in the last budget, the Build Canada Strong Fund for community, because we know that these centers are very key to economic development, to community prosperity, but also, in this case, for even emergency management. So I want to thank the mayor for his time. I want to thank my colleague Sean Casey, who's been, I can tell you, Mayor, when Sean speaks, I thought, well, listen, he's been very
That's
vocal.
We call him all the time.
He's been very vocal. It's not the first time I hear about the Eastlink Centre, I can tell you.
You'll hear more.
And he's been very keen, and I want to say the team has been doing a great job. So delighted to be here in Prince Edward Island, delighted to bring the country, I would say, to Charlottetown for the next day and a half, so that we can focus on national priority, but also look at the good things that you've been doing here in Prince Edward Island. Talk also about the mayor and his team about economic growth, about affordability. The place that I see Prince Edward Island playing as we're looking at exports to new markets. The Prime Minister and I were just in the Middle East last week. We look at investments in defense that are going to be very good for Atlantic Canada, very good for Prince Edward Island. This afternoon, I'll be looking at biosciences as well, because we know I was there for BioVectra. At the time, you may recall, Mayor, I know we have a very strong cluster in biosciences in the province, on the island. So it'd just be good to be here, and you have a partner, I would say, Mayor, and I want to say thank you to you and your team for really taking the time to explore this project that you have, and I know it's dear to your heart and to the people of Charlottetown. So I'll be one of your ambassadors, bringing the voice of the people here to Ottawa. Yeah. So let me just say maybe a few words in French. Content évidemment d'être ici à l'île du Prince-Édouard, à Charlottetown. Vous savez, pendant la prochaine journée, c'est la rencontre des ministres des Finances au niveau fédéral, provincial, territorial. J'ai eu une très bonne rencontre avec le maire de Charlottetown. Il m'a parlé d'un projet qu'on appelle le Eastlink Centre, qui est le centre sportif ici à Charlottetown, qui a aussi une équipe de la Ligue de hockey junior majeur qui est ici. Donc, on a parlé des possibilités de développement, de rénovation, un projet important pour Charlottetown, mais aussi pour l'île du Prince-Édouard. Alors, je voulais remercier non seulement le maire, mais aussi mon collègue Sean Casey et évidemment ma collègue, la ministre Burrig, la ministre des Finances de l'île du Prince-Édouard, qui reçoit, je disais au maire que l'attention du pays va être tournée vers Charlottetown cette semaine, la semaine prochaine aussi. Et on va parler d'enjeux nationaux, mais aussi comment l'île du Prince-Édouard, comment Charlottetown bénéficie des investissements qu'on fait en infrastructure, des investissements en défense. Et aussi, on a parlé d'exportation, parce que le premier ministre et moi, on revient du Moyen-Orient. Alors, honnêtement, moi, je vois des choses très intéressantes pour Charlottetown, pour l'île du Prince-Édouard. Et évidemment, bien, avec ce centre sportif-là aussi, je sais que c'est au cœur des préoccupations des gens ici sur l'île du Prince-Édouard.
Oui.
Alors,
et
merci.
pour moi, en français, je suis très heureux de notre réunion, Monsieur le ministre, et je suis très confiant qu'il y a un futur, une bonne avenir pour le centre communautaire Eastlink, et c'est à cause de votre visite. Merci beaucoup.
Gentil.
Merci.
Do you mention money at all? How much money is from the feds in the province and the city for Eastlink Centre?
Well, you know the mayor, he's not very shy.
No.
He's not. I've not met.
We'll put the money on
he's
the
not
table.
very shy to make his ask, and it's appropriate, you know, because when you do these projects, as you know, under the Build Community Strong program, there is a component which is municipal, there's a component which is provincial, and a component which is federal. That's why it was necessary, I would say, to have that meeting to set the expectations right about what part, you know, the federal government could contribute. That's why I'm going to be reaching out also to the province. I understand the mayor, with my colleague Sean Casey and the leadership, have already done a lot of work with the premier to socialize this important project for Charlottetown, but I would say also for the province of Prince Edward Island. I understand that it's more than just a sport venue. And that's really, it's one of the key takeaways. Because when we look at these centers, we often think about sport, which is great. You know, hockey is part of our DNA here in Canada. We're all proud. But it's also a community center. It's an emergency, I would say, facility in case we ever needed it. So I would say the way it was presented to me was ticking a number of boxes. You know, when you look at that, it's just not a sport venue. It's much more for the community. And coming from a town which also hosts one of the team of the in rural Canada, I understand the power of an infrastructure like that to bring, you know, other events, cultural events, events that, you know, we're looking at different things. I was just welcomed when I landed by those who are organizing conferences. I mean, venues like that allow to do different things, and I think that's what the mayor put forward with his very capable team of leaders who really put forward a very compelling case.
So no dollars and cents yet, though?
Well, that was the first, you know, you need to start with the basis and say the vision. You know, you're quite right. You know, the mayor expressed me with the colleagues, what's the vision? I have heard about the project, but I would say today was really you want to be on the same page. What's the vision? You know, it's initially I thought it was, you know, oftentimes when you look at that, you're thinking about a sport venue, but I think the mayor was very convincing and going beyond the sport venue. Very important for the island because it brings people to Charlottetown, but there's much more than that. And I think that was really what the mayor wanted me, and, you know, it's my very first meeting as I landed. He wanted us to take almost an hour to really go through that and explain to me why it's not just a sport venue. It's also a community asset, which is going to be used by a lot of people. And should we ever need it also for emergency preparedness. So I would say it is a very compelling, and also looking at renovation. You know, the mayor made the case that, and I think in a very fiscally responsible way, looking at the existing facility and seeing that renovation was the best way forward. And I want to applaud him in terms of also presenting something which, you know, from what I've seen this morning, also take into account fiscal responsibility, which, you know, when you're finance minister, you always want to make sure that whatever we put forward is also fiscally responsible.
So not a brand new facility, but a revamped Eastlink Centre on the same location.
Three options. We had three options. As John Abbott CEO, general manager for the Eastlink, stated right from the start, you build new, 180, 200 million. You renovate, 50, 60 million, or you do nothing. We have to renovate. And I think that's the most responsible path forward. And I want to thank our MP from Charlottetown, Sean Casey, and the team from Eastlink that have put this together with investment from the city and, again, from our council of almost $2 million to get the design engineering ready. So we have a shovel-ready project to go tomorrow.
So I want to ask about the emergency measures portion of this because, as you're aware, Fiona hit this province hard in 2022. And the problem of future storms is ever present here in how they craft budgets, how they look at assets. And so for you and the federal government, how compelling was that argument that Prince Edward Island needs in Charlottetown a major facility for emergency measures?
Well, I like I said, that's why we had the meeting. I thought that this was a very thoughtful presentation. I want to commend the mayor. I've known him, but it was very thoughtful. Like I said, because when you look at that instinctively, you think about a sport venue, which is great because we need one. Then you move into the community piece, but the emergency preparedness aspect, I must say, was also part of a compelling case presented by the mayor. Because you're right, we always have to think what may come next, and therefore we spend a bit of time with also the league. President, because in other communities, he told me other example where these kind of facilities have been part of the emergency preparedness plan because they happen to be like where I come from in Shawinigan in smaller communities, and usually they are the largest facility in these communities. So we spend probably 10, 15 minutes talking about that aspect of it, which I think that's why I say meetings like that matter, because we went beyond just looking at something at first sight and go into the details. And I think what I want to commend the mayor and his team, I must say, and the city council and the councillor, was that the thoughtfulness that I see behind it. It was just not a quick thing of saying we want this because of that, but I say we thought about it. We thought about the aspect we want to be fiscally responsible. We talk about different aspects. The province has been consulted, and I'm hopefully going to be able to talk to the premier before in the next 2 days, and certainly bring that to his attention and say to get his feedback. But I understand a lot of work has been done already, so it's a good thing.
And that source of funding under disaster mitigation is also federal funding. So there's Build Canada Strong funding, disaster mitigation. There's the Green Inclusive funding for getting our facility net zero ready for future issues of climate change and climate mitigation. So we're trying to check off all the boxes, as the minister said earlier.
Do you want to add something, Sean? You were the guy who carried the ball.
There's not a lot more to say. I mean, when you look at the Eastlink Centre, you consider that it was built in 1991. The population of Prince Edward Island has grown significantly, and half of the population is in Charlottetown, Stratford, Cornwall. So this is a 1991 building in 2026 society. The time has come for it to be modernized. As was indicated, there's been a thoughtful and thorough presentation put forward, and one that I'm happy to take forward and see if we can get it across the finish line in terms of federal funding.
I was born in 1992. I hope that doesn't make me too old. I do have a question for you. Revamping it, can we get any sort of details as to what it looks like? What does the Eastlink Centre need to turn it into what your vision is for it?
Maybe the mayor would be best, or maybe you.
I want to ask John.
John.
Let's just leave the project.
Yeah. It's a capacity change. We'll go to that magic number of 5,000 seats to be able to bid on certain events. Plus, yes. Just updating all the facility infrastructure itself, ice making, air quality systems, bringing everything into this day and age is really what we're going to do. Yeah. The emergency preparedness aspect is, we have next door a 42,000 square foot trade center. We can house about 1,100 people for up to 4 weeks if needed. So we'll have facilities for food, washrooms, walking track, all the things that people are going to need if God forbid something should happen again that we need that for. We'll be ready for that. So it's a multifaceted piece that we're doing, but I think it's well needed, and I think it's, as I've said to the minister, we're not looking for a grant, we're looking for an investment. the economic impact of this facility is, it's mind-blowing sometimes for Charlottetown, what we will be able to do. So,
Are you looking at a regional counterpart like the Avenir Centre in Moncton? Is that along your lines, or more the Credit Union Place in Summerside? Like what is the model for you?
well, it's maybe a combination of both. We're not going to be big as the Avenir Centre. We'll be a little greater size than Summerside, but somewhere in the middle of that, where we can at least get to the table to bid on these events, like a Memorial Cup, as the Commissioner has said. The Briar with Curl Canada, we've already had some discussions that are, as everybody knows, we'll be hosting the Scotties next February. They're going to be watching that very closely. So if this project gets the green light, be very soon after that, there'll be some pretty substantial bids going out from Charlottetown. So.
When? I mean, if shovels in the ground, are you ready to go in spring of 2020?
Need the money first.
As soon as we get the go, we're shovel ready. I have a first tender ready for site preparedness, so we're ready to go. July 31st, I'll have the second set of tender documents, so we're all set.
So you're just waiting for the letter from the province?
That's the key, and to get this project through, we still have to go through the funding process with Ottawa. Our application will go in on Thursday, the deadline, and hopefully with the Minister's help and MP Casey and others around the city and the island, we can get this through sooner than later.
I have a question about the money, but you go ahead.
How much did you apply for?
So that I can say, I guess, 54.9 million.
54.9 million.
Yes.
Okay.
That's our application.
So that's the price of a revamped Eastlink Centre?
That's the price that we have right now, yes. Yeah.
And in terms of priorities and getting that done, where does that fall to you? Because you had talked in the spring update that sport was on the rise in terms of investment for the federal government. So in terms of that vision, where does this fit?
Well, it is inside the, we have provided in the last budget, you remember, infrastructure was one of the key pillars to build a country. That's why the Build Community Strong Fund as a component of that for facilities, I would say community facilities. Obviously, this is on the larger side of it. Some of them tend to be a bit smaller. That's why I want to talk to the province and the Premier and my colleague Jill, just to make sure that the province is also comfortable with that kind of allocation, because there's an envelope for Prince Edward Island. But I understand that the mayor, the team, everyone has done all the work that needs to be done to prepare the ground for that. We understand the project now. Like you said, you'll be submitting that, and you have one more ambassador. I think it's good news for Charlottetown. I'm in town. We're going to be talking about that. Certainly, this is on my radar screen more than ever now that we understand even better all the components of that, and therefore we'll do what we have to do to make sure that we look at that very carefully and make sure that Charlottetown has one more ambassador. You already have a good one with Sean, but maybe a Sean Champagne team is going to be,
Sounds like a good ticket.
maybe we're going to be trying to put that forward, and therefore that's why I want to thank everyone here. And like I said, we'll be here for 2 days, so a lot of discussions in town.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Can I ask you one question to make it easier for struggling oyster fishers on BI to qualify for benefits?
That's a very specific question in light of what may come. I mean, we are in pre-budget consultation. The good thing is that I'm here to listen. That's why we'll have a roundtable today with a number of leaders in the province. I'm quite happy to consider the request. Like you said, when you craft a federal budget, there's a lot of things to take into account. I'm very conscious of the reality of people here on the island. We've already made a number of adjustments, like the Confederation Bridge and among others. So in listening mode, I think the fair answer would be, as you do pre-budget consultation, you don't want to jump to conclusion, but it's fair to say that we're listening and quite happy to hear from them. And I'll be here for the next 2 days, so quite happy to hopefully we have a chance to meet the representatives so I can understand clearly what they have and the issue they want to address.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.